The Seoul garrison burned beautifully. Taewon and his team hit it at dawn when the Valkyrie guards were changing shifts. They used the stolen energy weapons, and this time they knew how to use them properly. The garrison had 30 guards. 15 died in the first minute. The others tried to raise shields, but Yoonji had sabotaged the generator 3 days earlier. Nothing worked. The resistance fighters moved through the building like ghosts. They had trained for this, practiced in abandoned buildings. They knew every corner, every door. The Valkyrie were caught completely by surprise. For the first time since the invasion, they felt fear. Taewon found the armory and loaded everything into trucks. Weapons, ammunition, equipment. The resistance took it all. By the time Valkyrie reinforcements arrived, the building was empty. The attackers were gone, vanished into the ruins of the city. News of the raid spread across the resistance network in hours. Across Earth, people whispered about it. The Valkyrie could be hurt. The Valkyrie could die. It wasn't much, but it was something. Overlord Threnus was furious. He ordered the execution of 1,000 humans in Seoul as punishment. But this backfired too. Every execution made more people join the resistance. Every cruelty turned survivors into fighters. The resistance cells coordinated their next moves. In Tokyo, they destroyed a Valkyrie supply convoy. In London, they sabotaged a mining facility. In Cairo, they freed 200 workers from a transport heading to Mars. Each victory was small, but they added up. Dr. Hyun received smuggled equipment from the raids. It wasn't enough to build what he needed, but it was a start. He worked day and night in his cave building the quantum disruptor piece by piece. Jiwon sent him everything the resistance could steal. Circuit boards, power cells, rare metals. Slowly the weapon took shape. Meanwhile, Jihai made a breakthrough. She had been monitoring Valkyrie communications for months, learning their language and codes. One night, she intercepted something important. Coordinates in orbit, a location that had heavy traffic but minimal guards. She traced the source. It was the Pacific Defense Station, one of Earth's old military installations. It had been destroyed during the invasion, or so everyone thought, but the Valkyrie signal suggested something was still there. Jiwon decided to investigate. She took a small team, including Minho and Daiho. They used a captured Valkyrie shuttle, one Daiho had been secretly repairing. The pilot said he could fly it, and he was right. The shuttle lifted off and flew toward the coordinates without triggering any alarms. The Pacific Defense Station was a wreck, floating in pieces. But buried in the debris, they found something amazing. A section of the station was still intact, still had power. And inside they found survivors. Admiral Boram Kang had been commanding the station during the invasion. When the Valkyrie attacked, she ordered her crew to seal themselves in the reinforced core. They had been living there for over a year, surviving on emergency supplies, too afraid to reveal themselves. Boram was a legend in the Earth military. She had commanded fleets, fought in wars, earned respect from every nation. Jiwon had studied her tactics in military school. Finding her alive was like finding a lost piece of hope. "Why didn't you contact anyone?" Jiwon asked. "Because I was watching," Boram said. Her voice was hard, but her eyes were tired. "Learning. I've been monitoring Valkyrie communications since they arrived. I know their fleet positions, their supply lines, their patrol schedules. I've been waiting for a resistance to emerge so I could be useful." "We need you now," Jiwon said. "We have weapons. We have information, but we need someone who knows how to fight a real war." Boram looked at the young commander. She saw determination there and intelligence. "Tell me everything." They brought Boram back to the main base, a hidden facility in the mountains of Nepal. When word spread that Admiral Boram Kang was alive and leading the resistance, recruitment exploded. Soldiers who had been hiding came forward. Pilots who thought the war was over started training again. Engineers began building new weapons. Boram organized the chaos. She created command structures, training programs, and operational plans. She was a professional, and she turned the resistance from a mob into an army. Dr. Hyun finished the first prototype quantum disruptor. It was ugly, a mess of wires and components held together with hope. But when he tested it on a stolen Valkyrie shield generator, the shield collapsed. He called Jiwon immediately. "It works," he said, his voice shaking with exhaustion and excitement. "The disruptor works. But there's a problem." "What problem?" "Range. It only works at very close distance. Maybe 20 meters. And it needs time to charge. About 30 seconds. How big is it?" "Right now? about the size of a refrigerator, and it needs constant power. I can make it smaller, maybe the size of a car, but not much smaller with current technology. Jiwan thought about it. 20 meters meant being inside a Velkari ship. 30 seconds meant holding position while enemies shot at you. The size meant they couldn't hide it easily, but it was a weapon that could break Velkari shields. That changed everything. Borum called a strategy meeting. All the resistance leaders gathered in the Nepal base. Jiwon, Minho, Taewon, Yoonji, Daeho, Jihei, and Suna, along with dozens of others who had proven themselves in the year of fighting. Here's what we know, Borum said, pointing at a map of the solar system. The Velkari have a command ship in high orbit. It controls the fleet. All communications go through it. All orders come from it. If we destroy that ship, we decapitate their command structure. And how do we destroy it? Someone asked. We don't have a fleet anymore. We build one, Borum said simply. We've captured Velkari shuttles. We have engineers who can reverse engineer their technology. We have pilots who can fly. It won't be much, but it might be enough. Yoonji stepped forward. I've been studying their engines. I think I can modify our old ships with Velkari components. They won't be as good as pure Velkari vessels, but they'll be better than what we had before. How long? Borum asked. 6 months. Maybe 8. Make it 4. We don't have time. The resistance split into teams. Yoonji led the engineering effort, working with mechanics and scientists to build the fleet. Taewon trained ground forces for coordinated strikes across Earth. Jihai expanded the communication network and planted viruses in Velkari systems. Suna organized medical teams and prepared for casualties. Dr. Hyun worked on the disruptor, making it smaller and more reliable. He reduced it to the size of a large vehicle. It still needed constant power and 30 seconds to charge, but that was the best he could do. The plan came together slowly. They would launch a coordinated assault. Ground forces would attack Velkari installations on Earth, creating chaos. The makeshift fleet would engage the orbital defenses. And someone would fly a shuttle with the disruptor into the command ship. The suicide mission part was obvious. Getting close enough meant flying into the heart of the Velkari fleet. Even if the disruptor worked perfectly, escape was impossible. Daeho volunteered immediately. I'm a pilot, he said. I can fly anything, and I have nothing left to lose. My family died in the first week. My friends are dead. Let me do this. Let me matter. Borum studied the young pilot. He was serious, determined, not seeking glory, just purpose. Are you sure? Completely. Then you'll train. You'll practice the approach 1,000 times, and you'll give us the best chance possible. Yes, Admiral. The months of preparation were brutal. Yoonji's team worked 18-hour days building ships from scraps and stolen parts. They constructed 15 vessels that could fight. Not much against a fleet of hundreds, but enough to create a distraction. Taewon's ground forces trained in secret locations, learning to use captured Velkari weapons. They planned strikes on critical targets. Power stations, communications arrays, garrison buildings. The goal was maximum chaos at the exact right moment. Jihai planted viruses throughout the Velkari network. They were dormant, waiting for her command to activate. When they did, they would scramble communications and disable automated defenses for approximately 10 minutes, maybe less, but it might be enough. Daeho practiced the approach in simulators and in real flight. He studied the command ship's layout from long-range sensors. He memorized every pattern, every patrol route. He would have one chance, one approach. He couldn't waste it. Dr. Hyun made final modifications to the disruptor. He added redundancies and backup power systems. He wrote instructions so clear that anyone could activate it. He knew Daeho might be injured or killed before reaching the target. Someone else might need to finish the job. Suna prepared medical facilities for the aftermath. She knew the casualties would be terrible. She trained volunteers in emergency medicine and stockpiled supplies. She couldn't save everyone, but she would try. The resistance had grown to over 50,000 active fighters, with millions more supporting them secretly. They had weapons, training, and a plan, but everyone knew the odds. Most of them would die. Earth might still be destroyed. The Velkari were still vastly superior in every way. But doing nothing meant certain death. Fighting meant a chance, and humans had decided that a chance was enough. The night before the attack, Jiwon walked through the base. She saw people preparing weapons, checking equipment, saying goodbye to loved ones. She saw Minho, who had become her closest friend, staring at a picture of his sister. 3 weeks after liberation, Jiwan stood in the ruins of Seoul and tried to remember what it looked like before. The city had been beautiful once, full of light and life. Now it was broken buildings and empty streets. But people were returning. Slowly, carefully, they came back to their homes. She walked through a market that was trying to rebuild. A dozen stalls sold whatever food people could grow or salvage. An old woman offered her an apple. Jiwan tried to pay, but the woman refused. "You fought for us," she said simply. "This is free." The apple tasted like hope. Admiral Borum had been appointed head of the United Earth Defense Council. It was a new organization, formed from the ashes of the old governments. Many leaders had collaborated with the Velkari, or had died during the occupation. The people who remained wanted someone they trusted, someone who had fought. Borum's first order was to secure all Velkari technology. Ships, weapons, computers, everything. Humanity had won, but they were still vulnerable. Other species in the galaxy might see them as weak. They needed to become strong, fast. Yoonji led the salvage operations. She had teams working around the clock, taking apart Velkari ships and learning how they worked. The technology was decades beyond human understanding in some areas, but Yoonji was smart and patient. She learned. Their engines use controlled antimatter reactions, she explained to Borum during a briefing. "We can't build them yet, but we can maintain them. We have 17 functional Velkari ships now. With human crews, they could form the core of a real fleet." "Make it happen," Borum said. "We need defenses. We need the ability to protect ourselves." Dr. Hyun worked with Yoonji, applying his knowledge to peaceful purposes. The quantum disruptor technology could be used for other things. Energy generation. Faster-than-light communication. Medical devices. The same science that had destroyed the Velkari could help rebuild Earth. But Hyun had nightmares. Every night he saw Daeho's shuttle flying into the hangar, exploding in flames. He had built the weapon that required someone to die. That weight never left him. Suna ran the medical response, treating survivors across the planet. Radiation sickness from damaged reactors, starvation from food shortages, trauma from 18 months of horror. There was so much work to do. She established hospitals in every major city. She trained new doctors from volunteers. She worked 18-hour days and never complained. When someone asked why she pushed herself so hard, she said, "Because people are suffering, and I can help." Minho recovered from his wounds slowly. The shrapnel had nearly killed him, but Suna's quick work saved his life. He couldn't fight anymore, not physically, but he found a new purpose. Word spread across the galaxy about humanity's victory. The Velkari had enslaved dozens of species over centuries. Now those species heard that one of them had fought back and won. They began to rebel. On Velkari colony worlds, slaves rose up and killed their masters. On industrial planets, workers sabotaged the machines and fled. The Velkari Empire, already crippled by the loss of its command fleet, began to collapse. Minho became Earth's ambassador to these liberated species. He traveled to their worlds and captured Velkari ships, offering help and solidarity. "We know what slavery feels like," he told them. "We know the cost of freedom. We will stand with you." Species that had been enemies under Velkari rule became allies. They shared technology, resources, and information. A network formed, connecting dozens of worlds. Not an empire, but a coalition. A defense against tyranny. Ji-hai continued her work with computer systems. She had become an expert in Velkari networks during the occupation. Now she used that knowledge to help connect the coalition. She built a communication system that couldn't be jammed or intercepted. She created security protocols that protected against hostile intrusion. She also found something interesting in the Velkari data. Coordinates. Locations of other major powers in the galaxy. The Velkari had kept detailed records of everyone they considered a threat or a potential conquest. One name appeared frequently: the Galactic Council. According to Velkari records, it was an organization of the oldest and most powerful species in the galaxy. They maintained peace through diplomacy and, when necessary, force. The Velkari had avoided them carefully. Jiwan brought this information to Borum. "Should we contact them?" "We should," Borum said. "But carefully. We don't know if they'll see us as allies or threats." The decision was made to send a delegation. Jiwan would lead it, representing humanity to the galactic community. It felt appropriate. She had been one of the first to resist, and now she would be the first to reach out. The message was sent using Velkari long-range communications. It was simple. This is Commander Jiwon Kim of Earth. We seek dialogue with the Galactic Council. We are a free people and wish to join the galactic community in peace. The response came 3 days later. Your message is received. The Council welcomes contact with humanity. A delegation will arrive at Earth in 2 standard weeks. Those 2 weeks were frantic. Earth had to present itself as stable and strong, not desperate and broken. Cities were cleaned up as much as possible. The makeshift fleet was organized into something resembling a proper military. Borum drilled the crews constantly. When the Council delegation arrived, their ship was enormous, easily 10 times the size of a Velkari command vessel. It was beautiful too, elegant in a way human ships weren't. It took position in high orbit and a small shuttle descended to the surface. 5 beings emerged. They were all different species representing different worlds. One was tall and thin with crystalline skin. Another was short and covered in fur. A third looked almost human but with violet eyes and silver hair. They wore robes marked with symbols Jiwon didn't recognize. The leader, the one with violet eyes, spoke in perfect English. I am Counselor Vena. We represent the Galactic Council. We have come to speak with the humans who defeated the Velkari Empire. Jiwon stood straight. I am Commander Jiwon Kim. Welcome to Earth. The negotiations took days. The Council wanted to understand what had happened, how humans had won, what they intended to do now. Jiwon was honest. She explained the occupation, the resistance, the final battle. She showed them the labor camps, the experimental facilities, the devastation. We did not seek this war, she said, but we will not be enslaved. Not by the Velkari, not by anyone. We fought because we had no choice. We won because we refused to surrender. Counselor Vena listened carefully. The Velkari Empire was a threat for centuries. Many species tried to resist them. All failed. You are the first to succeed. This is unprecedented. What does that mean for us? It means the galaxy sees you differently now. Some will admire you. Some will fear you. Some will want to test you to see if your victory was luck or skill. It was both, Jiwon said honestly. And sacrifice. Many people died to win our freedom. We understand sacrifice, Vena said quietly. The Council offers you membership. You would have a voice in galactic affairs, access to trade and technology, protection under Council law. What's the cost? You must maintain the peace. You cannot conquer other species or enslave them. You must contribute to the common defense, and you must accept Council oversight in certain matters. Borum, sitting beside Jiwon, spoke up. We will not surrender our sovereignty. We just want it back. We do not ask for surrender, Vena replied. We ask for cooperation. The galaxy is dangerous. There are threats worse than the Velkari. Together, we are stronger. The negotiations continued for weeks. In the end, Earth agreed to join the Council as a probationary member. They would have access to trade and protection, but limited voting rights until they proved themselves stable. It was a good deal. Not perfect, but good. Dr. Huon's quantum technology became the foundation for Earth's recovery. Power stations using his designs provided clean energy. Communication systems connected the planet again. Medical devices saved millions of lives. He received offers from 12 universities to teach and research. He accepted one in Seoul, near where he had lived before the invasion. He wanted to go home. Yoonji was promoted to chief engineer of the Earth Defense Fleet. She oversaw the construction of new ships, combining human creativity with Velkari technology. The fleet grew from 17 ships to 50, then to 100. These weren't just copies of alien vessels. They were something new. Human ships with alien technology, fast and deadly. Yoonji made sure every ship had redundancies, fail-safes, and backup systems. Humans learned from their defeat. They would not be caught unprepared again. Suna was awarded the highest civilian honor Earth could give. She had saved thousands of lives during and after the war, but she didn't attend the ceremony. She was too busy working in a hospital in Mumbai treating patients. When someone asked why she didn't take time off, she smiled. There will be time to rest when everyone is healed. Taewon became a trainer for the new Earth military. He taught guerrilla tactics, urban warfare, and survival skills. His students were young people who had grown up during the occupation. They remembered slavery. They remembered fear. They learned to fight so it would never happen again. Minho traveled constantly, meeting with other liberated species. He helped negotiate alliances and trade agreements. He became known across dozens of worlds as the human who stood with the oppressed. Some species honored him with titles. The lunar mining camp stretched for miles under the gray dust. Yoonji Lee swung her pickaxe into the rock, feeling the impact shake through her arms. She had been an engineer once, building bridges and designing buildings. Now she broke rocks for 12 hours every day. The Valkyrie guards watched from platforms above. They rarely came down to the floor. They didn't need to. Their weapons could kill from a distance, and everyone knew it. Yoonji worked next to a man who used to be a teacher. 2 weeks ago, he complained about the food. A guard shot him. His body was left there for 3 days as a reminder. But Yoonji had a secret. She was good with machines, and the mining equipment broke down constantly. When the Valkyrie needed repairs, they called for workers who understood technology. Yoonji always volunteered. While she fixed the machines, she made small changes. A wire moved here, a circuit rerouted there. Nothing obvious. But over weeks, the equipment broke down more and more. The Valkyrie never suspected. To them, humans were just stupid animals. That was their mistake. On Earth, Jiwon had found Minho's resistant cell. It took her 3 months of careful searching, moving from town to town, sleeping in ruins, and eating whatever she could find. The world looked different now. Cities were half empty. The Valkyrie had taken most people to work camps. Those who remained kept their heads down and tried to survive. Minho's group met in the basement of an old factory outside Seoul. There were 30 people there, all armed with whatever they could find. Hunting rifles, kitchen knives. One man had a homemade bomb that probably wouldn't work. "We need information," Jiwon said. She had proven herself to the group by sneaking past 3 Valkyrie patrols to reach them. "We need to know what they're doing, where they're weak." "They're not weak anywhere," someone said bitterly. "We tried attacking a supply depot last month. They killed 20 of us before we got close." Jiwon shook her head. "Everything has a weakness. We just need to find it." Minho liked her immediately. She didn't talk about glory or revenge. She talked about tactics and intelligence. She was a soldier like him. "What do you need?" he asked. "Access to their computer systems. Can anyone here hack?" Nobody could, but Minho knew someone who might be able to. Ji Hae-nam had been a cybersecurity expert before the invasion. She was hiding in Busan with a group of survivors. It took 2 weeks to make contact and bring her north. She was thin and tired, but her eyes were still sharp. "You want me to hack alien computers?" Ji Hae asked. "I don't even know what language they use." "Try," Jiwon said. "We captured a small Valkyrie tablet from a dead guard. It's all we have." Ji Hae worked on the tablet for days. The Valkyrie language was strange, but mathematics was universal. She found patterns in the code. Slowly, she began to understand. The tablet connected to the Valkyrie network wirelessly. If she could crack the security, she could see what they were doing. It took 3 weeks. When she finally broke through, what she found made everyone go silent. The Valkyrie were mining Earth's core. They had drilled massive machines deep underground, extracting something called exotic matter. According to their own reports, the extraction would destabilize the planet's magnetic field within 2 years. After that, Earth would become uninhabitable. The Valkyrie didn't care. They would take what they wanted and leave. And there was more. Internal messages talked about culling the human population once the mining was complete. They planned to kill 40% of humanity. They only needed enough workers to finish the job. Jiwon read the messages 3 times, making sure she understood. Then she looked at Minho. "We have 2 years. After that, Earth dies anyway." "Then we have nothing to lose," Minho said quietly. Dr. Hyun had been living in a cave system in the mountains. He had managed to save his equipment and continued working by candlelight. His research was on quantum mechanics, specifically on how to disrupt energy fields. Before the invasion, it was theoretical. Now it was survival. The Valkyrie shields operated on a principle he recognized. They used quantum entanglement to disperse energy across multiple dimensions. It was brilliant technology, centuries beyond human science. But Hyun understood the theory, and where there was theory, there was a way to break it. He needed specific frequencies. He needed power. He needed equipment he didn't have. But he worked anyway, calculating by hand when his computer batteries died. The math took months. When he finally had an answer, he almost didn't believe it. There was a resonance frequency. a specific pattern of quantum disruption that could collapse the Valkyrie shields. The problem was generating it. He would need a quantum field generator, which didn't exist. He would need to build one, and he would need to be very close to a Valkyrie ship for it to work. On Mars, a young pilot named Daeho Song hid in the ventilation systems of the factory complex. He had survived the initial invasion by being off-world, flying a cargo run to the asteroid belt. When he returned, Mars was already occupied. He managed to land his ship in a crater on the far side and had been hiding ever since. Daeho watched the Valkyrie. He learned their patterns, their shift changes, their weaknesses. He was patient. He had nowhere to go anyway. He noticed something interesting. The Valkyrie were arrogant. They never checked their own equipment carefully. They assumed it worked because they made it. Daeho was a pilot. He understood ships, and he began to see ways to sabotage the Valkyrie vessels without being detected. In the medical tent on the moon, Suna Yoon treated sick workers. She had been a doctor on Earth, running a small clinic in Incheon. Now she worked with almost no supplies, watching people die from diseases she could have cured easily before. The Valkyrie gave her basic medical supplies, but nothing more. They wanted workers healthy enough to work, nothing else. Suna was also a messenger. The Valkyrie didn't watch the medical tent carefully. Sick people came and went. It was the perfect place to pass information. When Jiwon needed to send a message to the lunar camps, she sent it through the resistance network to Suna. When Yoonji needed to tell Earth about a Valkyrie weakness, she told Suna. The resistance was growing. Slowly, carefully, like roots spreading underground. In every camp, in every city, in every hiding place, humans were connecting. They shared information. They made plans. They waited for the right moment. Minho's cell launched a raid on a Valkyrie supply depot. This time they planned carefully. Jiwon led the tactical planning. They waited until shift change when guards were distracted. They used Jihai's information about patrol patterns. They struck fast and ran faster. They got weapons. Real weapons. Valkyrie energy rifles and 2 small shield generators. They also got something more valuable. During the raid, they freed prisoners being transported to a new work camp. One of them was Daeho. The pilot looked half-starved, but he was alive. I know things, he told Jiwon, about their ships, about their hangars. I've been watching them for months. Tell me everything, Jiwon said. Daeho explained the layout of Valkyrie carriers. He described their security systems, their blind spots, their flight patterns. Most importantly, he explained that Valkyrie shields didn't protect against slow-moving objects. They were designed to stop fast projectiles and energy weapons. But something moving slowly could pass right through. It was a small thing, maybe useless, but it was information, and information was power. The Valkyrie noticed the increased resistance. Overlord Threnis ordered reprisals. In New Delhi, they executed 500 people in the city square. In São Paulo, they destroyed an entire neighborhood. In Sydney, they cut food rations in half. The cruelty had the opposite effect. People who had been trying to survive quietly became angry. Farmers who had accepted the occupation joined the resistance. Teachers, doctors, mechanics, soldiers. They came in ones and twos seeking out the hidden cells. Minho's group grew from 30 to 300. Other cells appeared in other cities. They communicated through Jihai's hacked network, coordinating carefully. They weren't strong enough to win yet, but they were learning. Dr. Hyun made contact with the resistance. He sent a message explaining his research. Jiwon read it twice, then called a meeting. He thinks he can disrupt their shields, she told the group. But he needs equipment, and he needs to be close to their ships. How close? Minho asked. Very close. Maybe inside the ship. Everyone was quiet. Getting inside a Valkyrie ship meant certain death. But it also meant a chance. A real chance to hurt them. Taewon Lim spoke up. He was a guerrilla fighter, a man who had been resisting since day one. We need more than a chance, he said. We need a victory, even a small one. People need to see that the Valkyrie can bleed. He was right. The resistance had grown, but it was still fragile. People were scared. They needed hope. They needed to see the aliens could be hurt. They planned a strike. A real one. They would hit a Valkyrie garrison in Seoul, the one Taewon had been watching for weeks. They would use everything they had learned, and they would make it hurt. The night before the strike, Jiwon couldn't sleep. She thought about the fleet burning in space, about her crew being taken, about Earth slowly dying. She thought about the message from Dr. Hyun, about shields that could be broken. Maybe they had a chance. Maybe. In the darkness, the ember of resistance was growing into a flame. The alarm screamed through the orbital defense platform, and Commander Ji-won Kim knew Earth was about to change forever. She ran to the command center, her boots hitting the metal floor hard. The screens showed something impossible. Dozens of massive ships hung in space above Earth like dark clouds before a storm. What are they? Someone asked. Nobody answered because nobody knew. The ships were huge, bigger than anything humans had ever built. They were black and smooth, with strange lights pulsing along their sides. Ji-won counted 30 of them, and more were appearing every minute. They just appeared out of nowhere, as if space itself had opened up and let them through. Try to contact them, Ji-won ordered. The communications officer tried every frequency. Nothing worked. The alien ships were blocking all signals. Earth was blind and deaf to the rest of its own colonies. Mars couldn't hear them. The moon bases went silent. Even the asteroid mining stations disappeared from the network. Then the aliens spoke. The message came in perfect English and Chinese and Spanish and every other language humans used. The voice was cold and had no emotion in it. You are now property of the Velkari Empire. Surrender immediately. Resistance will result in destruction. Ji-won felt ice in her stomach. Property. They said it like humans were things, not people. This is Commander Ji-won Kim of the United Earth Defense Force, she transmitted back. We are a peaceful species. We can negotiate. The response was immediate. Negotiation is not offered to livestock. You have 48 hours. The line went dead. Across Earth, people panicked. The world governments held emergency meetings. Military forces prepared for battle. Dr. Hyun Park sat in his laboratory in South Korea, staring at his screens. He was a quantum physicist, one of the smartest people on Earth. His team had been working on experimental weapons, but nothing was ready. Nothing could stop ships like that. His assistant ran in. Dr. Park, they're saying we should evacuate. Evacuate where? Hyun asked quietly. They're in space. They control the high ground. There's nowhere to go. Captain Min-ho Choi had a different reaction. He was in Buenos Aires when the aliens arrived, visiting his sister. While politicians talked about surrender, Min-ho talked to his old military friends. We can't just give up, he said into his phone. We have to fight. Fight with what? His friend replied. They destroyed our satellite network in seconds. They haven't even fired a weapon yet. Min-ho knew it was true, but something in him refused to accept it. He had spent 20 years in the military. He had fought in 3 wars. He knew how to resist, how to hide, how to make an enemy bleed, even a strong enemy. The 48 hours passed like a nightmare. Earth's combined fleet launched from hidden bases. 200 ships, the pride of humanity's military. They flew up to meet the Velkari with missiles and railguns and laser weapons. The battle lasted 4 minutes. Ji-won watched from the orbital platform as the human fleet died. The Velkari ships had shields that nothing could penetrate. Their weapons cut through human ships like paper. Explosions blossomed in the darkness. Each one was a ship full of people gone in a flash of light. Fall back, Ji-won shouted into the communications. All ships fall back. But there was nothing to fall back to. The Velkari hunted down every ship. They were efficient and merciless. When it was over, space was full of debris and bodies. The world government surrendered that night. Velkari transport ships landed in every major city. The doors opened and creatures walked out. They were tall, maybe 8 feet, with gray skin and 4 arms. Their eyes were large and black. They wore armor that hummed with energy. They carried weapons that looked like they belonged in nightmares. The one who called himself Overlord Threnus appeared on every screen on Earth. He looked at humanity like a farmer looks at animals. You will work, he said. You will obey. You will serve the Empire. Those who resist will be eliminated. Those who work well will be fed. This is the natural order. We are superior. You are inferior. Accept this truth. The roundups began immediately. Velkari soldiers went door to door in cities across the world. They took people by the thousands, loading them onto transports. Families were separated. Children cried for parents. Old people were dragged from their homes. Anyone who fought back was killed instantly, their bodies left in the street as warnings. Ji-won's platform was boarded by Velkari troops. She watched them take her crew one by one. A young ensign, barely 20 years old, tried to resist. A Velkari soldier touched him with a weapon and the boy screamed and fell. He didn't get back up. You! A Velkari pointed at G1. Come. G1 looked at the alien, then at the escape pods in the corner of the platform. She had seconds to decide, surrender or run. She thought about that young ensign, about the fleet burning in space, about Threnus calling humans inferior. She ran. The Velkari fired, but G1 was fast. She dove through a doorway and sealed it behind her. Alarms blared. She sprinted down corridors she knew by heart, reached an escape pod and launched herself into space. Behind her, the platform exploded. The Velkari didn't want evidence of resistance. G1's pod fell toward Earth, burning through the atmosphere. She crashed in the ocean off the coast of Japan. She swam to shore and hid in the ruins of a fishing village. Around her, the world was ending. On the moon, millions of humans were forced into mining camps. They dug into the lunar rock, extracting minerals for the Velkari Empire. Guards watched them constantly. The food was barely enough to survive. People died every day from exhaustion or punishment. On Mars, the colonists fared no better. The Velkari turned the research stations into factories. Humans worked 18-hour shifts building things they didn't understand. The Martian governor tried to organize a protest. The Velkari response was to execute every 10th person in the colony. The protest stopped. On Earth, the aliens began ripping resources from the planet. Massive machines drilled into mountains. Forests were cleared in hours. Oceans were drained for their minerals. The Velkari didn't care if they destroyed the planet. There were always more planets, always more slaves. Dr. Hyun managed to hide his research data before the Velkari came for him. He erased the laboratory computers and ran into the countryside. He carried one small drive with all his work on it. It might mean nothing now, but if there was ever a chance to fight back, he would be ready. Minho gathered people who thought like him. Soldiers, police officers, hunters, farmers, anyone who refused to accept slavery. They met in basements and abandoned buildings. They had no weapons, no plan, and no hope, but they had anger, and sometimes anger was enough to start a fire. 6 months passed. Earth became a prison. Humanity learned what it meant to be property. They learned the taste of defeat, the weight of chains, the emptiness of powerlessness. But in the darkness, something else was growing. A hatred, a determination, a promise whispered in secret places. This would not stand forever. Dawn broke over Seoul, and the world went to war. Taewon's team struck first, hitting the main garrison with everything they had. Explosions ripped through the building as stolen Velkari missiles found their targets. Guards rushed out, confused and disorganized. They had grown lazy after 18 months of easy occupation. That laziness killed them. The resistance fighters moved with purpose. They had trained for this. Every person knew their job. Taewon led one team through the main entrance while another flanked from the sides. The Velkari tried to organize a defense, but Jihai's virus activated at that exact moment. Their communications went down. Their automated weapons stopped working. They were blind and confused. It was beautiful. In Tokyo, London, Cairo, Mumbai, and dozens of other cities, the same scene played out. Resistance cells attacked simultaneously. The Velkari had troops everywhere, but they were scattered and unprepared. The humans hit them hard and fast, then vanished before reinforcements could arrive. On the moon, Yoonji led the camp uprising. She had spent months preparing, spreading word to trusted workers. When the signal came, 2,000 humans rose as one. They overwhelmed the guards with sheer numbers, taking their weapons. Many died, but many more lived. They seized control of the mining equipment and turned it on the Velkari ships in the spaceport. Suna moved through the chaos in the lunar medical tent, treating wounded fighters and getting people to safety. She had prepared evacuation routes, hidden shelters, supply caches. She worked calmly while explosions shook the ground above. In space, Admiral Borum gave the order from the hidden asteroid base. All ships launch. May we all find our way home. 15 human ships powered up and flew toward Earth. They were a strange fleet, cobbled together from old military vessels and new Velkari technology. They looked like they might fall apart at any moment. But they flew, and they carried weapons. Borum commanded from the lead ship, a modified destroyer called the Defiance. Jiwan was beside her as tactical officer. They had one job: get Daiho close to the command ship. The Valkyrie fleet detected them immediately. 30 warships turned to intercept. The odds were absurd, but the human fleet kept coming. All weapons fire at will, Borum ordered. The space between Earth and Moon lit up with weapons fire. Human missiles streaked toward Valkyrie ships. Energy beams crossed the darkness. The Valkyrie shields held easily at first, but the humans had learned. They concentrated fire, overwhelming shields through sheer volume. The first Valkyrie ship died 3 minutes into the battle. Its shields collapsed under combined fire from 5 human ships. Missiles found the hull and tore it apart. The explosion was massive. The Valkyrie fleet adjusted, becoming more aggressive. They destroyed 2 human ships in quick succession, then 3 more. The humans were outmatched in every way, but they kept fighting. They had to. Daiho needed time. The pilot flew his shuttle alone, painted with Valkyrie identification codes. He stayed low, using Earth's orbit as cover, waiting for his moment. The quantum disruptor sat in the cargo bay, powered up and ready. Dr. Hyun's final message was simple: get within 20 meters, activate the device and let it run for 30 seconds. That was all. Daiho watched the battle through his sensors. He saw human ships dying. He saw Valkyrie vessels converging. He saw the command ship, massive and dark, hanging above everything like a spider in its web. He began his approach. On Earth, Minho's team breached the main compound in Seoul. They found laboratories inside, places where Valkyrie scientists had been experimenting on humans. The things they saw made everyone stop and stare in horror. Bodies. Children. Experiments. Minho felt something break inside him. He had been angry before, but this was different. This was rage so pure it felt cold. He moved through the facility with mechanical precision, killing every Valkyrie he found. His team followed, equally furious, equally ruthless. They planted explosives throughout the compound, every lab, every research station, every chamber of horror. Then they left, and Minho pushed the detonator. The explosion could be seen from space. The Valkyrie began to realize this wasn't a small rebellion. This was a coordinated assault across the entire solar system. Overlord Threnis sent emergency orders, calling all ships back to defensive positions. He didn't understand how humans had gotten this organized, how they had built ships, how they had weapons. His arrogance blinded him. He still thought humans were primitive. He still thought this was containable. In space, the human fleet was down to 8 ships. Borum's Defiance had lost shields and was bleeding air from multiple hull breaches. But they were close to the command ship now. Close enough. Daiho, you're clear, Jiwan transmitted. We're holding the line. Go now. Understood, Daiho replied. His voice was calm. He had made peace with what came next. He accelerated toward the command ship, his shuttle looking like just another Valkyrie vessel returning from patrol. The automated defenses scanned him and cleared him. He passed through the fleet without challenge. Then he got close enough that the command ship noticed something wrong. His shuttle was broadcasting Valkyrie codes, but the flight pattern was odd. Alerts went out. Ships turned toward him. But Daiho was already too close. He flew straight at the command ship's main hangar. The shields were designed to stop fast projectiles. His shuttle was moving slowly, deliberately. He passed right through the energy barrier like it wasn't there. Valkyrie soldiers in the hangar opened fire. Shots hit the shuttle, shredding its hull. Alarms screamed. But Daiho kept flying forward, right into the center of the massive hangar bay. He activated the quantum disruptor. The device hummed to life, building charge. 30 seconds. He just needed 30 seconds. Energy beams tore through the shuttle cockpit. Pain exploded across Daiho's body. His instruments went dark. He tasted blood, but the disruptor kept running. 20 seconds. More weapons fire. The shuttle was falling apart around him. Daiho couldn't feel his legs anymore. His vision was going dark. He focused on the timer, watching numbers count down. 15 seconds. Valkyrie soldiers rushed toward the shuttle, trying to disable it, but they didn't understand what they were seeing. To them, it was just some strange human device. They wasted precious seconds trying to analyze it instead of destroying it. 10 seconds. Deho was dying. He knew it. His body was giving up. But he had done his job. He had gotten close enough. Just a little longer. 5 seconds. Everything went white. The quantum disruptor reached full charge and discharged all at once. The energy wave spread outward at the speed of light, invisible but devastating. It hit the command ship's shields first, and the shields simply collapsed. Then it hit the ship's power systems. They failed instantly. The wave kept spreading, jumping from ship to ship through their quantum communication links. Every Valkyrie ship in orbit lost power simultaneously. Shields dropped. Weapons stopped working. Engines went dead. The entire fleet became nothing more than floating metal coffins. Admiral Borum saw it happen and couldn't believe it. All ships, target the command vessel, fire everything. The remaining human ships unleashed their full arsenal. Missiles, railgun rounds, energy beams. All of it struck the helpless command ship. The massive vessel tried to maneuver on auxiliary power, but it was too slow, too vulnerable. The ship exploded from the inside out. The reactor went critical, and the explosion was so bright it lit up Earth's night side. Overlord Threnus died without understanding what had killed him. The other Valkyrie ships drifted helplessly. Some managed to restore partial power, but they were crippled. The human fleet, battered and broken, hunted them down one by one. It wasn't a battle anymore. It was an execution. On Earth, Valkyrie soldiers suddenly lost contact with their command structure. They tried to regroup, but the resistance was everywhere. Without orbital support, without communications, without orders, they were just isolated units. And isolated units died. Teywan's forces swept through Seoul, killing or capturing every Valkyrie they found. In other cities, other resistance cells did the same. Some Valkyrie tried to surrender. Most were not given the chance. Humanity remembered 18 months of slavery. Humanity remembered the experiments, the executions, the cruelty. There would be no mercy. Minho took a piece of shrapnel in his side during the final assault. He collapsed, blood spreading across his uniform. Jiwon, who had returned from space, found him and called for Suna. The medic worked quickly, stabilizing him. "Did we win?" Minho asked weakly. "Yes," Jiwon said. "We won." "Good." Minho smiled. "Good." On the moon, Yunji watched Valkyrie ships fall from the sky, crashing into the gray dust. The workers cheered, crying with joy and relief. They were free. After 18 months of hell, they were finally free. Dr. Hyun sat in his cave, watching the news on a salvaged screen. He saw the explosions in orbit. He saw the reports of victory. He had built the weapon that made it possible. But all he could think about was Deho, the young pilot who had carried it into death. "Thank you," Hyun whispered to the empty cave. "Thank you." It took 3 days to hunt down the last Valkyrie forces. Small groups tried to hide, but there was nowhere to go. Earth's population, freed and furious, found them all. The cost was terrible. 6 billion humans had died during the occupation and final battle. Whole cities were gone. The environment was devastated. But Earth was free.